Right, good morning. Looks like everybody is accounted for. Do we have any additions to the agenda? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Don't think there's anything in there for Plattsburgh Builder Supply, so we could potentially
I didn't see any.
handle it all as one.
So move to approve the consent agenda.
Been moved by Commissioner Kaiser and seconded by Commissioner Buble to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Comments from the public? Anybody sign up in the room? Guessing not. Oh,
Oh, so I just signed in, so.
Okay.
I don't need to speak.
anyone on Zoom? And maybe we should admit Dan Sears and then I'll ask that again. Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to make a public comment? Please raise your hand.
He's now in. You might say it one last time. He was connecting to audio.
Okay. Anyone on Zoom that would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. All right, moving on to old business. Marina update. Miriam.
Okay. Our Marina study. So finance and ops, we continue to collect data for BST and Associates. We're Glenn and I are still working on that. The study is still expected to be completed by February 2025. We've discussed sediment movement with Lower Columbia Engineering and how we can predict depth in the channel and marina over time. Their firm could provide a forecasting report based on the data from our 2015-2016 dredge, and also the recent samplings we've just taken in our determination memo from PSET. This report could be helpful in assisting BST in in assessing the usability of the marina at typical low water conditions. So I think that would be a key piece to provide to our consultants on the study.
And just to pause real quick there about, they gave us an estimate of $4,500 to do that, and that's within my signing authority. So we'll get that so BST can add that to the analysis.
It takes about 3 weeks to get prepared. Dredging project, we started to move forward on our collecting our dredge permits for the next 10-year cycle. Because we're not disposing inland, in water, we're now disposing upland, a biological assessment will be needed, which can take up to 4 months to create, and then a year, sometimes a year and a half to process at the state level. We're currently at that point with our in-water permitting phase. We've been waiting for quite some time to have that done. State agencies are just backed up. So we may be able to save some time. There are some things that we need to consider. And that would be whether we have KPFF consulting engineers prepare the BA for the dredging and submit it now because they've already created a BA for the marina project. Might save us some time, but it will slow down us getting marina permits, our in-water permits. The challenge with that is that we have other grant requirements with Travel Oregon and OSMB to have our 88 platform, which is finished and completed and built and ready to be shipped to us. But we haven't received our in-water permits yet, which are due, so we can't put that in the water. So the issue is if we have KPFF do the BA, save us some time and a little bit of money, we can hurry along the dredging process. We should dredge before we do the in-water work. However, If we wait to do the BA at a later time, it slows down our in-water permitting process for the ADA platform. So these are things that we're working out. I'm looking over the details in-house here. It's kind of complex. But we're looking at what's the best way for us to move forward on that biological assessment.
So do you have to take delivery of the platform and then store it until?
At this point, our options are having the port store it, the delivery and store it, or we can store it at the facility who created it. In Washington, we would have to pay storage fees for about 6 months, and then we would reassess. Those fees are about $250 a month.
Is there any way we could keep it at our winter circle site there? And it's just a dock. I mean, it wouldn't hurt it sitting outside, right? I mean,
It's huge.
okay.
And we really don't have the space.
Right.
It's also not a good place to crib it and store it because of its aluminum. It can easily get tweaked. Clint and I are working on trying to come up with a place that is suitable for it to be stored on our property.
It needed crane, so.
It needs crane, strapping, riveting. It's a big deal.
Right.
It's complicated.
And you can't just put it in the water somewhere else
We don't have permits to store it in.
or in water anywhere.
I would think renting a crane and all that might start to make sense just to pay to have it stored.
Yeah.
Well, my thought on it was, is the company that had us, I'm sure you've already looked at all this, but obviously the company that built it is not gonna have anything to do with delivery and placement of, or
We could have them deliver it and place it in water. That was the original plan.
so it'd be cheaper than probably to have them store it and deliver it at, okay, gotcha, okay.
It would also assist us in putting it together, not necessarily physically, but saying, oh, that goes for that piece, or Clint is very knowledgeable. He builds these himself, so our team is pretty talented. But it does help to have the manufacturer on site when we do this.
Where in Washington are these built?
Oh, I can't remember. It's marine floats. Just trying, I just can't remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
Somewhere in Seattle area, probably up there in the sound.
Because I would think, space would be.
Yeah.
The issue I see is, and I don't know this company at all, but I've seen these companies financial trouble, get locked up and have our material inaccessible. That always worries me.
They're, I can only assume, because I haven't done any financial assessment on this company, but they just finished the Westport Marine and did the same exact thing for them, and it looks beautiful. Always been very pleased with the work that they did. So matter of fact, that's where we got the idea and prototype for them to do the same for us.
Westport one is beautiful.
So do you have any indication of when this permit might?
We have quite.
In water.
Oh, the in-water permit.
Right.
The in-water permit we were hoping to have before April. Matter of fact, we should have had it by October, this last October. We should have had it in time to be a dredge. But we don't expect it now to be until after April, April. If we get it by April, then we can have the ADA platform delivered to us, put it in the water, because that's our grant deadline, the travel organ OSMB, to have it constructed and put in place in April 25. So we're close. We can almost cross our fingers, but I always want to prepare for the worst case scenario.
It just seems what you're doing is the smartest way to do it, obviously, and have them store it, because you're gonna pay thousands to have it just a crane come out.
Craned and then craned up.
You gotta
back
truck
up
it,
and
you're
then
gonna
craned.
pay, yeah, I mean, yeah, that would not make.
So are you saying that if we don't have it by April, we could have a problem receiving the monies?
Perhaps. This is more into Lacey's realm since she's applied for that, but we have been discussing we've been discussing this issue. And prior to we get to that point, we'll be reaching out once again, as Lacey already has, talked to Travel Oregon about the situation. I think they understand that all the state agencies are backed up, and it's not just the port, it's everywhere. Everybody that's applying for permits is having delays. So I think there'll be some grace in that area. But we will definitely talk with OSMB and travel Oregon before we get to the deadline.
Unfortunate that regulatory agencies and permitting are causing us to have to spend more.
And keep in mind, when we started this project, everything was timed perfectly. For where we could have the dredging done and the in-water work done and our platforms placed, but now it's all, you know.
That's like, right?
Exactly.
It almost really actually worked out because if we would have been trying to secure a dredge contractor for this current in-water work window, we would have been, okay, we're still waiting for the
Oh, gosh, yeah.
permit.
Okay, let's see, we were talking about dredging and then we got over onto the ADA platform. So I'll just wrap this up a little bit. There is what we call, Sean, would you call that the buy-up? It's the FEMA buy-up, yeah. So the FEMA buy-up, the decisions that the county is going to make by December 1 could have a big impact on our dredge disposal plan. We have been planning to do upland disposal at Railroad Avenue. However, depending on how that turns out, we may have to do mitigation, one-to-one mitigation. So we don't know what the requirements are gonna be. It could have a huge impact if we're using a lot of acreage at Railroad Avenue. So the requirements are not known, so it's hard for us to predict or plan moving forward until after December 1. Okay, today in dredging, you asked for some numbers. We paid approximately $131,000 to get to the point where we are now, and that is to have all the sampling done, the consulting fees, and getting our determination memo from PSET. And just as a reminder, this valuable data that we've received so far from all of our sampling, all the work we've done to date, will no longer be valid after 3 years. So keeping in mind the cost that we've spent and that we have a 3-year timeline before we have to redo and regather all that data over again and spend the money again, our deadline to dredge is October of 2026. So we're entering 2025 and we know that a biological assessment has to be done. The permit agencies are taking their time, so we need to move quickly so that we maintain the option of dredging in October of 2026, even if we just do the kayak area, because that can be done in water, right? We don't have a big dredge plan, the mitigation, the FEMA buyout, all of that is not involved.
And while that may seem a little silly to just do the dredge area, we have that grant.
Yeah,
It makes sense for us to at least get that piece
yes,
finished.
that will allow us to put the ADA platform in place. So that's something to consider, that we should maybe to think about doing something before October 2026. We'll continue with the dredge process, but it might make a difference on our permits. Right now, I'm working with both consultants, in this case, it's KPFF, to get our permit and the biological assessment submitted. And instead of saying, hey, we want our permits to do upland disposal or in-water disposal, we need our permits to say, and our biological assessment to say that, hey, we don't know what we're gonna do yet. Because of these other impacts, we would either do this or this. We want a permit that would allow us to one or the other. So this is some hiccups that we need to work through, but we're right at the point now where we need to write the biological assessment, make the decision on how we want to do it and get it submitted right away. Any other questions on that?
It's complex.
Very
Boy, yeah, kidding.
Okay, our in-water process, we've already kind of talked about that a little bit with the biological opinion. We're still waiting from you guys to give us a review on that. And we've already talked about perhaps sharing information from our KPF consultants that did the in-water biological assessment with the dredging biological assessment. So that's some similar information that could be checked. Just trying to speed it up, you know. Lastly, our upland improvement project is going along great. It's looking good. Have you all had a chance to go out and see? Yep. We have a picture show for you if you have to get out there. It's still on schedule. Communication's been great. The work is quality. It looks good. So far, we put in our fire protection, utility lines, retaining wall, FDC, PVC, hydrants, all the emergency equipment has been put in place. We've done some concrete work and sidewalks and some curbing and trash enclosure areas, et cetera. You'll see some of those pictures here real quick. And so the next thing up to date is to schedule a couple of days for electrical work. Putting the pay station shelters in place, they're on site already. Finish pouring a few small areas of concrete and then paving, striping and signage. We expect to be done at the end of the second week of December. Wanna pull up our little, we can go through this real quick. It's just pictures. You already understand what's happening, but it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. Well, you can just probably run through these quickly. On the left, you'll see a truck with a flatbed with fire protection lines and a very dark line. That's the trench on the left side. That's where the lines are going in all the way down to the gangway. On the right, you can see where we've attached the FDC and PIVs there. Next slide. This is a close-up of our hydrant just being installed, along with the same emergency lines we just discussed. Next slide. Here they're preparing a very tricky retaining wall, very close to our neighborly property. It's been difficult to get in between that space to even build the forms and then pour the concrete. Also, we had some trickery that we had to work with the PUD on that pole there. You see we had to dance around that pole. And we also had to extend an anchor line. It was a lot of creative thinking, but we got it done. Next slide. Here we're at the point now where we've compacted and we're getting a sub base for concrete. So we're getting ready to do that. Next one. And here's our beautiful new wide sidewalk. You can see that orange guy wire. That was extended 3 feet below the sidewalk, which had to be shortened and brought up to its current level there. Some more trickery. And so now we have a 12-foot wide sidewalk, and if you can see where the pole is now, just beyond that pole is a very tiny jut out that you may see towards the barbed wire fence, and a pole right there. Thank you. That is where the pay station will be placed, and it's pushed back so we can use as much sidewalk in front of the pay station as possible. Okay, next slide. This is another view of the sidewalk going towards the gangway. Next slide. And we have some tricksters. You see that get ready area sign? That's not gonna be get ready area. We just come to work one day and look at the sign, go, what's that there? What's that doing? What it is marking that area is the PUD's meter base that's being erected right at that point. And then the white line is a conduit for electrical power that's going out to our pay stations. Next slide. Here is the area where it forks off to our main sidewalk that goes up to the residential parking and up the parking lot, and then the curb that loops into the boat entrance. And then our our utilities there. Emergency. Next slide. Just another picture of them getting underway. Next slide. Another angle from that same area. And you can see, if you look where the wooden forms are, you can see how the parking lot is going to be shaped. That part that loops out, that's going to be a pull-out. Yes, that's going to be a pull-out area for people to temporarily pull in, unload onto the sidewalk, and then go park. Next slide. Flagpole is not really crooked. So we've modified that area where it was quite a bit of unusable landscaping. We've had to do this to create more parking in the parking lot. Next slide. This is where the first pay station is going to go in the upper car parking lot. There's a before and after. We've got bollards and electrical conduit coming out of there. Next slide. This is where the trash enclosure is going to be next to the RV park, restrooms and storage facility. Next slide. And then we've got it poured and it's curing right there. Those posts are going to be our metal enclosure gates. We'll have a 10-foot wide gate opening for access to the dumpsters, and then on the side, there'll be a man gate that opens up for our staff to go in and out. We also wanted to do this to help keep it closed and locked for transients and other people unauthorized use. And I think that's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Do you have any questions?
Good.
Excellent.
Yeah, looks really good. Thank you, Miriam.
Thank you.
Right, airport update, Lacey.
Good.
I'll have a brief picture show for you. Website, okay, west side pavement maintenance is 90% complete, slide. You are looking at images from taxiway Bravo. As you can see from the drone images, cracks have been patched. All cracks have been fixed on the west side work area as well through the fingers of the hangers. I don't have pictures of that. Slide. At the top, you see taxiway Bravo has a coated slurry seal, and the drone images below are the completed taxiway slurry application. Lines have now been painted on at this point, not pictured. Slide. Okay, moving on to the east side, open-sided hangar building. It was demolished last week by Bear Root Land and Home, and Kyle Fountain is here in the audience. These are drone pictures from the first day of work. Slide. These are pictures that Bear Root sent to us. This is of the completed project after cleaning all the building materials and debris, ripping out the concrete pads, and the land was graded and seed mixed with straw was put down.
Kyle mentioned, just talking with him this morning, that they had worked up with some floodlights because they thought they were expecting rain, which the site would have looked a lot different had it rained. Luckily, they dodged the rain and, yeah, no mud was trailed around anywhere.
Great.
And slide, and I just made a quick little video from last week. Not that video, one more slide. Oh, it didn't upload. Okay. I made a quick video during the demolition.
I have to share that screen for those online to see that because it's only sharing your other window.
Do you guys have any questions while we wait for this?
Looks great.
No, it looks wonderful.
I'll give you some feedback. Transwestern thought it looked fantastic and they were complimentary of the crew that did it. They did a nice
It's
job.
great to hear. It's great. It's great to hear.
I just want to mention it, an extra thank you to Kyle and his crew for going the extra mile and applying seed and grass for our winter covering. That was a bit more than we expected, and so we appreciate that. They did a really good job out there, and they did it quick.
Yeah, really quick. Thank you. And lastly, the port does currently have an RFP open for mowing services at the airport and at this property. So if you know anybody that might be interested, please send them to our website so we can get lots of great bids for that. Fingers crossed. You guys have any questions? Okay.
We do have the video there if you want.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for the shaky from.
Were you up there in the air with it?
It's about 4 times speed.
He's gonna say, wow, they're fast.
Yeah, it's 4 times.
Nice work, Kyle.
And I unfortunately missed it falling to the ground.
Oh,
I didn't know it was coming.
yeah. Wow, what a beautiful day that was.
This is from.
Nice to have that going.
Lacey?
Thank you.
All right, any update about the Lignetics stuff?
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. Good morning. I asked for an update from Steve Nelson and he had emailed me yesterday saying that DEQ had asked for additional information, which they had mailed on the 7th of November to DEQ. He did say that he didn't feel like that would affect their construction schedule in January. So they're still planning to get the scrubber and things going in January. We continue to work out the fine details on the split of the new transformer costs. So should have something soon on that. That's I don't think it's not a this, it's just, let's work out the details on how it looks where we share the expense.
And I can't remember, but they have that transformer currently
Correct.
set aside for them.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions about that? If not, we'll move on to new business, 2024 strategic business plan implementation. Amy and Gina.
Morning. This morning, we'd like to give you a brief update on the strategic business plan. The strategic business plan, as you know, was approved by the commission earlier this year and is the result of various assessments that were undertaken in 2023 and early 24 that included coordination with the commission, staff, tenants, and local regional partners. It is designed to be a flexible guide for the Port Commission as it sets policy and capital improvement priorities. Sorry, if you just go ahead. Oh, that's okay. They're just words. We don't have any pretty pictures or cool videos anyway. So, as you all know, we had a series of information gathering activities that went into the strategic business plan, community open houses, staff, stakeholder and tenant surveys, and interviews. And then there was an online survey that was open throughout the whole process. Through that process, a list of critical initiatives was collected, and then you all selected the top 3 most vital strategic priorities the Port to focus on in the coming decade. And they're listed on the slide that you can see. But I think you all know, I don't have it written down, but it was invest in our existing properties, work westward, and acquiring new property. That's paraphrasing, but those were the 3 main buckets to focus on.
There's technical difficulties.
Well, there you go.
It's not online though.
Krista does great work.
Mhm.
I don't envy.
No. No, that's pressure.
So I'll go to slide 3. Check my math and see how close I got to the. There you go. So those are your 3 strategic priorities that were selected from all the input that we received. So the state identifies 5 elements that must be included in a strategic business plan. And these are a capital improvement plan, management plan, a financial plan, an environmental plan, and a marketing plan. Each element contains an overview of port-wide goals and strategies that were identified. And over the next few months, we'd like to review each of these elements with the commission and the progress that has been made, focusing on one at each commission meeting. And next slide. So today we're gonna review the capital improvement plan, and since this is one of the largest, we're going to split it up and review goals 1 and 2 at today's meeting, and then 3 and 4 at the December commission meeting. This plan identifies the highest priority capital improvement projects to encourage economic development opportunities and the continued success of port operations and facilities. It guides our capital improvement priorities, but it does not oblige the port to make improvements. Funding for capital improvements are often contingent on funding in partnerships with local, state, and federal agencies and private partners. So as Gina said, the capital improvement plan is one of the largest elements of the strategic business plan. And so, yeah, we've divided it for a deep dive into just the first two goals. There's 4 total. So goal 1 was to develop and maintain a capital improvement plan that lists out projects and associated estimates for costs for those projects. So that was accomplished through the work that was done on the strategic business plan. However, going forward, we are obliged to annually or biannually maintain this capital improvement. So it's not just to make it once and then it's done for a decade, obviously. Those updates are going to be managed internally by staff, and we will most likely do them as an annual part of our budgeting process. Next slide, please. Then here's goal number 2. This is focused on promoting Port Westward as an energy and bulk commodity shipping facility, really promoting that multimodal transportation that's available at the site. The strategies of this goal include continuing to pursue rezoning of the 700 acres at the site, as well as modernizing the beaver dock to the seismic resiliency compliance that we are required to do so under the Senate Bill 1567. If I could have pulled that out, I would have been amazed at myself. So we're now going to go through the capital improvement action plan that highlights all of the different improvement projects that are currently underway. So we're only going to highlight the ones that have been started and are in process. So we gave each one a copy of the capital improvement plan divided by site. And this is also included on pages 34 to 37 of the strategic business plan available on the Port's website. The action plan, which is what we're showing up here, takes the info on the capital improvement plan and organizes it in order of priority. In the last 6 months, the board has made significant progress on the action plan, and we're going to give a quick overview on the status of the projects the port has been working on. So the first one there, the Port Westward seismic vulnerability assessment is complete and was submitted last June. And for the next few there, the Port Westward beaver dock modernization for seismic, the fire system, and the water intake system are all in process. These projects will be included in the design, engineering, and permitting phase, for which we were recently awarded the $2.7 million grant from Connect Oregon to begin this work. And the port's match for that is $1.1 million. And then you can see the bottom 2 items are the Scott Peak Airport Emergency Generator Project and the West Side Pavement Maintenance. Lacey's been keeping you all, I think, very well praised on the progress of those. I'll just say that Northeast Electric on the emergency generator is standing by to install the generators as soon as they arrive.
As soon as they what?
Arrive.
Question, what if the Port Westford water intake system, why are we expanding that?
That's to switch from the PGE to the port's water intake system. That's something that the water pressure isn't quite what it should be from the PGE side, and it's a very long several miles to go from their intake to ours. And they may be decommissioning those fuel tanks as it is, whereas our water intake system is just adjacent to the berth. So it makes sense eventually to do that transition.
I'll catch up with you a little later, really, because there's no volume out of that right now, right?
Yeah, you mean of use of water intake?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's used to resupply the water reservoir at CPD.
It's also a matter of long-term port control of that.
Yeah, as we know, Robert, you're well aware that there's been concerns about the fire flow at the dock from that hydrant in. If we were to, PGE wants to get out of the fire water supply business for us because it is such a long route from their intake system. We had talked about bringing the water, the fire water from our system and then supplying it and then either interconnecting with them for some emergency benefit, but also providing the fire water to the dock. But yes.
Okay, so you're not talking about adding capacity, you're not putting another pipe in the river?
No.
All right, I misread the way that, okay. I'll catch up with you all later. Thank you.
So you can see the top bucket that's folded, the runway rehabilitation project. This is currently in phase 2, which is the final design engineering. And then we're in the process of applying for FAA and Oregon Department of Aviation grant dollars for phase 3, which is the construction phase. Once we have those grant agreements in place for that project, which is, we estimate January and February to have those grant agreements in place of 2025, then we'll move forward with an invitation to bid to do the construction. That will go out in April, and then construction will be summer of 2025.
And then Railroad Avenue, the cleanup of the former Cope and Talbot wood treating site is in process. We received the record of decision from DEQ last year, and later today we are submitting the application for a $4 million EPA grant requesting funding to clean up the first priority action area. The cleanup, of course, of the entire site is now at $30 million estimated. Next slide.
We joke there's a ticker goes up every single day.
It's literally a thing, yes. Yeah, so, yeah, so. Yeah, right.
I don't know why we're laughing.
So we don't cry. So the Skypeace Airport East Side Hangar demolition, you just saw the video. It also has, the reason why you don't see a check mark under the status is because we had also paired it with a replacement of the building in the capital improvement plan, which we don't have a timeline for an actual replacement of those buildings. For the east side water line extension, we have a Oregon Department of Aviation grant application that we applied for the phase 2 of that project, which would be construction. Without the grant support of Oregon Department of Aviation for that project, the port won't be able to pursue construction at this point. But as I said, the design's already completed for that.
Construction on Marina upland improvements, as Miriam told you earlier, are currently underway and expected to be completed by the end of the year. And we received a $407,000 grant from the Oregon State Marine Board for that project, which the port is responsible for 50% match. Slide. These projects are currently third priority, but we did learn last week when we went to the city of St. Helens that they have started work on the north side access road at Railroad Avenue. That's good news. Next slide. So the estimated total cost of all the projects that were identified in the capital improvement plan are now over $90 million over the next 10 years. This chart shows the general breakdown of costs by each port facility, and as you see at Railroad Avenue, the cost of these projects will continue to increase. It is recommended that the capital improvement priorities are reviewed annually as part of the budgeting process, and as we look at updating the action plan for the next budget year, it's also a good time to review project prioritization and which projects we would like to fund in the coming budget cycle, especially as investing in development and modernization of existing properties is one of our strategic priorities. And a side note, currently most of the revenue generating projects like the spec building at McNulty or site development at Columbia City or Multnomah Industrial Park are listed as third priority for funding, and we may want to consider reevaluating the list as we look for ways to maximize our investments and generate new revenue.
So we just want to thank you very much for letting us do this deep dive. I think that revisiting the strategic business plan is really important. This was, as I said, just the first 2 goals of just the capital improvement plan. And we're going to be back at the next commission meeting to go over the next 2 goals from the capital improvement plan. But we thought that this would be an opportune time to start digging into and revisiting the information that's in this plan. Especially as we start to go into the fiscal budgeting process. As you can see, there's a lot of projects that are planned that we'd like to do. And it's very important to consider all of the competing priorities of things that we must do. And then the $90 million list of things that we would like to do. With that, any questions or?
Can we get some information on the profit and loss kind of situation we're in as a whole? in our operations and then, where are we best spending our money, I guess is what we're looking at. And maybe having that information before we start the budgeting process or good looks at it. Diving into really where we're at as a commission and our capacities and those kinds of things. So can we have that for a meeting soon? Is that possible or?
Yeah, Mr. Guy Glenn Jr., I think, has already got stuff cooking in the background because he's being the money guy. He's really concerned about things and revenue generation is definitely going to have to be a focus for us.
How about December?
How about that? That'd be great.
December.
Right.
Sounds good.
December meeting.
I don't know if this fits in here, but I'm curious about where we stand with the new maintenance building. What's happening? Where are
That
those
is-
people? Are they under a bridge somewhere?
That is definitely a pause. That's the Winter Circle project Miriam was talking about where we've can utilize that empty space there. And that's where the maintenance folks will set up so we can get out of Orpet's way so they can demolish our old building.
I think you're talking about a building somewhere.
Oh, yeah, we were gonna do a new building, but it came. Oh, yes, you're right. Yeah, building A, yeah, it just made sense to put the folks where their stuff's gonna be. So they're gonna be inside the Winter Circle space, and then, have the bays there for their vehicles, and then also be able to work in the back of that facility to be able to work on vehicles and things, so.
Is that currently, that's currently happening now? It's slowly,
Mhm.
things are slowly starting to.
Yep, we committed to being out of the Oklahoma location by February. So we're ahead of schedule on that.
Related to that, Sean and I will be meeting with the new president of Orpet to discuss that expansion timeline. I know that they've already executed an agreement to do the design engineering with Florida Columbia.
Oh.
So I wanted to have an executive meeting with them to just talk about timeline and how they're planning to mitigate impacts to their neighbors as they do construction.
Do you know how big that expansion is gonna be?
They are taking the entire footprint of where the port maintenance shop is, and then they're also going to sort of encapsulate that parking lot where all the raw material is. The idea is that the building would extend, this is what I've been told, that the building would extend out so that material could be housed inside, which I think is great in terms of a long-term solution to all of the fugitive particle issues that we've had out there.
Yes.
So. But I'll know more.
And Commissioner Ward, to your point earlier, but the building A, where we talked about having their office space is available, and we were gonna put some money into that, thinking that, okay, whatever money we put into that after they move out eventually, potentially if we get the new shop building, that would be leasable space.
Right.
We have some quotes on some HVAC system in there, and it's what, 13,000 or something? 13,500.
The HVAC system, 65. Ability to do windows and flooring.
To get it ready to potentially lease it. So, I mean, it may take us a while to earn that money back in a lease. But if we want to have some available space for somebody,
Excuse me, we can move forward with that whenever you're ready.
That just makes a ton of sense, I think. I mean, because then you can release the asset, like you said, so.
it is a little niche spot though. Maybe you can talk a little more about how much square footage it is. I think it's less than 2,000 or.
Yeah, it could be a great office space for someone specific. Trade type of office that doesn't mind being in an industrial park, maybe doesn't have a lot of customer traffic coming. It's a big office, but yeah, to lease it, we certainly will need to make these upgrades. That's why it's been sitting vacant. And I will mention that when I came on board in 2021, it's always the joke, right? That today's dollars are cheaper than tomorrow's dollars. That HVAC was 10,000 when I first started. So it's only.
Sure.
So if we ever intend to have it, that generate revenue, that will have to be done.
There's some mandate on HVAC starting January 1st next year that's gonna take them all up 25% or something.
In the efficiency here.
No, I think it has to do with the chemicals that are the Freon or,
Oh dear.
yeah.
Take it up 25%?
It's what we just had some estimates done and both of the quoters said 25% increase first of the year.
Wow.
Get that one on the phone. Yes.
We'll do it by, have it done by December.
Questions? Oh, wait, I stayed.
More to come on this, obviously we, as a, relatively young staff, it's good for us to have this roadmap with the strategic business plan, obviously helps folks make financial decisions and policy decisions as well, so we'll keep leaning hard on it.
Yeah, appreciate the update. All right, EPA cleanup grant update.
Good morning, commissioners. This morning, I'd like to give you a brief update on the status of our EPA cleanup grant application for the Untitled site. Here's the slide that you've seen dozens of times before, showing the various priority action areas. And when I talked to you about this on October 9th, our intention was to apply for funds for the cleanup of dock area 2, which is right there. You can see it's in water. However, at that time, I mentioned that we were waiting for EPA to confirm that that priority action area is eligible for an EPA grant. And the reason we asked is that the port does not actually own that land. It leases it from the Department of State Lands. So eventually EPA responded that for the port to be eligible for that particular PAA, we would need to change the lease with DSL so that we would have essentially the same rights as a
I'm sorry,
property.
I'm not seeing it online. It's not online.
And the EPA says we would need, what was that?
Effective control or something.
Yeah, so basically the issue is our lease isn't irrevocable. And so we would have to negotiate that change if we were to be the lead on the grant application. Clearly, there was not time for us to contemplate those changes, so we immediately pivoted to the upland area priority action area. And that's the one that's sort of in this upper center of the property where the two structures remain. So the cleanup of upland area 1 involves the installation of a cap over about 9 acres and a permeable reactive barrier on the slope between that cap and Multnomah Channel. Because the maximum grant amount is $4 million, our application will be for the installation of the cap with the permeable reactive barrier waiting until funding is available. So upland area was kind of a natural pivot because it offers some of the same advantages of dock area 2. Slides back up again. First off, it sits above the other priority action areas, so it won't be recontaminated by the remaining priority action areas. Second, it's also adjacent to the no further action area and would free up much of the 42-acre site for redevelopment. And the third advantage is we can phase implementation to match funding availability. So as I mentioned, we intend to start with the cap, which will cost roughly $5.2 million. And with the permeable reactive barrier to follow when funding is available. I also want to let you know we have been following up on our community outreach efforts to inform the community of our grant application and our hope to include the proposed St. Helens Milton Creek Trails development project. So on October 30th, we held a community open house here at the port's office. And on November 6th, I presented the project to the St. Helens City Council. And on November 18th, I'll do the same for the St. Helens Park and Trails Commission. And as Gina mentioned earlier, the grant application is actually due tomorrow, but our intention is to compile the rest of the documents today and submit it this afternoon.
How much is the grant?
$4 million. So to remind you, the cost is estimated 5.2. So the difference would be made by $500,000 that DEQ is already authorized and set to this particular PAA cleanup. And then we have insurance proceeds to make up the difference. Do you have any questions?
I'm just curious if DSL is gonna wanna make changes to allow the mandates that DEQ is pushing on us, or if they would take it themselves and apply, or.
You know, we've been so focused on the grant, we haven't approached that. I can see some strategic things that may benefit us, but we might be best off executive session.
Take care.
I was thinking about why are we
Yeah.
missing?
I don't know the history behind that.
We will report back on that later, on that question.
Let that lease lapse.
One question too on the, now that we're on that, so is the whole waterfront there leased? Obviously, is it
No.
the same, it's just that one piece, because there used to be a dock there or something, obviously.
I don't know why we had that particular area lease. I have not identified a lease up down to Milton Creek.
Mhm.
But
Interesting.
I think we're all thinking the same thing.
Speculation being, when we talked to the city of St. Helens, they were pretty, they're pretty certain that, it's a deep water port. We think ships, but, able to handle, barge traffic. So, because the channel's supposed to be maintained to a depth of a number I can't remember for barge traffic. So maybe that was past commission's idea, was keeping that available should we ever need to develop.
How much do we pay for them?
Question.
And how many years is the lease?
Even finding the documents has been difficult.
I can imagine. You're going
So like
ancient history.
50s, 60s, what was it? So we bought it in 63. Yeah,
The lease is newer than that. But I don't know if there was something prior that we haven't been able to locate either ourselves or at DSL.
Guessing it's not a great sum of money, you would notice it.
It's not.
So, yeah, so I'm just.
Right.
5-year registrations or permits, whichever they are, and then, yeah, that's 3,000 or something, or, I don't know. We'll find out.
So the barrier on that thing is basically 1.1 million, roughly. At current cost.
The permeable
Yeah,
reactor.
from your, yeah.
Those prices haven't been updated for a couple of years. I sort of have a number like 2 million.
The EPA grants are available next year, the $4 million, so, if we're successful and we get the construction done, we can also try again next year.
When will you find out?
It's not till, next.
September this year. Oh, you mean for this
Oh,
grant, whether we
yeah,
award?
it'll be, I think January, it'll be in the spring,
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
springtime.
yeah,
Takes that long.
oh, yeah, I mean,
It's a process.
It is a government.
I'll talk a little bit more about it in my director's report, but having money for grant matches is going to be pretty paramount for us as we try to
Right.
maintain things. Yeah.
But when the DEQ lady hits us about best efforts, I mean, you're the state lady, why don't you work with DSL here? Because
Well, they may not have, well, it'd be interesting when we do a little research here on, yeah, that'll be very telling, I guess.
this was another Elliott find, I believe. So the DSL aspect.
Good job.
see what they think when they're a partner in this thing.
Any further questions or comments? Thank you both. Right, executive director's report.
All right. Just as I previously alluded to there, the AAPA annual convention in Boston, Bob Salisbury and I went 2 weeks ago now, I think it was. Really, the biggest takeaway there, first, let me say there were 93 ports there, about 800 people at one point. Massive, they had walk-up music for speakers. It was quite the production. And we sat in several different sessions that were, they had some tracks you could take. I'll say the biggest takeaway is to be ready, because every one of us ports, we all have aging infrastructure. We're all dealing with chasing docks that have, been built, 100 years ago and things. One guy mentioned from an East Coast or maybe a Gulf port talked about they had 10% of the money for their, all they had to do, they could do everything. It was just paramount to have our ducks in a row. Like we've been doing, spending money on studies and designs and things so that when a grant opens up, we're ready to apply, as opposed to, oh, we need to get ready so that we can apply. I really feel strongly that we'll have to lean on grants to to do the things that we want to do. And maybe that's a strategy that we have, is we just have a bucket for grant match, that we set aside to make sure that the unknown of what the match may be, the FAA grants are nice because they're what, 90-10, 90% FAA, 10% us, but these bigger federal ones are not quite as nice as that, some of the infrastructure grants. So yeah, just having good grant packages that we can submit will be helpful. We're probably going to be in a seemingly kind of a wheel spinning mode here for maybe the next couple of years as we, try to manage what we're going to focus on, and you guys can be very helpful for that as we head into budget cycles on helping us prioritize too. So yeah, looking forward to what Guy can pull together for the December meeting and talk about and stuff. You've seen my calendar stuff there. I don't know if anything jumps out at you. I will say that the Thursday meeting that we had with Global Partners in Boston was very fruitful. We met with Sean Geary and Drew Carlson. We had a chance to get to the Chelsea terminal there in Boston before I'd say the Global folks showed up, because that facility had been purchased earlier this year from Gulf, GULF, the petroleum company. And those folks were talking really great stuff about Global. They've been great. We kept everybody, just like they did out here, Cascade Grain, and when they bought that from J.H. Kelly. So yeah, good neighbors, nice clean facility. They were moving out, but Monday, we'd driven out to the Revere terminal. It was Ghost Town. And that's the one I remember touring, one of the ones I remember touring back in 2017 when I went with a couple of commissioners. And it turns out that they were supposed to be out of that facility by that coming Thursday. The day we met by midnight. So that's why it looked like Ghost Town. So Global sold that terminal to a developer and consolidated in Chelsea. So really what they're doing there in Chelsea is moving heating fuel, all other fuels, either by barge or by truck. They have a filling station for trucks to come in. And as you can imagine, they add Chevron's Techron into the Oakland, and that truck goes to Chevron, and they've got Shell's special additive. And it's kind of good to know that they actually do have that additive that gets added. You pull up and you're like, all right, I'm getting Techron. But yeah, that was just typical Global, nice facility, very well kept, and really good people. So that lunch was really good. Sean Geary, as you may know, is what's his position?
Chief Legal Counsel.
That's essentially the new Eddie. So he's got pretty powerful pen. So he's was really helpful. Actually, also delivered some use agreement comments. So he mentioned that knowing we were coming, he wanted to have something.
So we had the meeting on Thursday. We got the use agreement comments on Wednesday from them. So,
but come to find out, he was telling us all that he'd been involved in. These terminal purchases that Global had done, and he's their guy. He's the guy signing things. So yeah, he's busy, and it sounds like he may have come out of that busy season. So anyway, that was a really,
I think he really appreciated the opportunity to sit down, face to face. And it's funny that it hadn't occurred to me, like going out there to their place after all these years, which I'd never done, and to be able to sit with him in his place, was very important.
And we'll try to get a trip arranged in the springtime. Robert has been pushing for this now for, a couple of years now, to get some newer commissioners out there, maybe a contingent, a county commissioner, maybe Paul Vogel, CET, just folks to kind of see what Global's doing as Kevin Jones, their new business development person, comes and tries to, further develop that facility out there for whatever they may try to do. So it's good for us to go out there and see what they have. And working with Katie Kearns on that, we'll try to get something lined up in the spring.
Cool.
I would say we'd tack it onto the mission to Washington, but I'm not sure that the timing will work out for that, but we'll see how it goes. Moving down, pretty busy stuff going on around. I'm just trying to see things I want to make sure we highlight here. On the 18th, we're giving the grant presentation to the Parks and Trails folks. And O&M, the Port Westward Annual O&M Operations and Maintenance meeting is coming up on the 20th. That's something that Guy and Elliot have been working on, getting numbers together. And gonna meet with the new Scappoose City Manager. If you haven't met Benjamin Bergener, I'm probably saying his name wrong. We're gonna, Amy and I are gonna meet with him and get him up to speed on port happenings. Yeah, there we go. We should decide today if we want to have a second meeting on the 27th of this month, the day before Thanksgiving. I can say right now, it doesn't currently look like we have port business, but keeping some workshop ideas in mind, maybe December, if we can adjust the schedule for December meetings, it's a longer month. I think we were looking at the calendar want to see if we could get some.
Would be the 25th.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, adjusting the schedule to do the, what do we talk about? Maybe potentially just doing one meeting in December, on the 11th. That'd be your normally scheduled meeting, and then I don't think we'd have anything by the next week to do, but, looking at, maybe shuffling some things in January to have a, 8th, or what did we talk about? The 15th and the 29th. The 15th and the 29th, because of the holidays, with the New Year holiday, adjusting that instead of having the 8th and the 22nd in January for dates, having the 15th and 29th. We can decide that next month too.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, that's it. You see the manager's report. Any questions on the reporting? We do have a vessel sitting alongside it. I saw the latest. I think they're waiting for favorable seas because the bars are pretty nasty, if you can imagine. So they may be just camping out for a little bit after they load. Questions on the reports?
Any questions? Anything else?
Thank you.
No, thank you. All right,
Wait, sorry, I want to publicly acknowledge, I mentioned it in my report in the body of the email. Miriam's tenure was in September. So congratulations to Miriam for. Just want to say that I feel very lucky to have people that are passionate about the work, and I feel like our crew is very passionate about the work, and sometimes we have to tell Miriam you're the last one here, don't forget to turn off the lights, but why don't you just go home? We are, we have increased our availability to work remotely, and while I'd like to think that people can leave here and go home and come back tomorrow and not think about work, some of us are a little more have a lot more going on sometimes. So I appreciate Miriam's work ethic, and her team's doing a great job.
okay. Commissioner reports. Yes, why don't you start?
Probably the most interesting thing is what's going on with the agricultural committee, and yet I hesitate to actually get into the weeds on it because there's a huge pivot going on right now. Originally, we had been going down this trail of doing something along the line of a composting facility to work in synchronicity with the planned butcher facility, which now is not going to happen. And so everything is kind of in a state of flux. And we met with them, just a very small group of us met with them in our last meeting to just simply talk about what seems viable for you, where can we actually help. And we do have some ideas, but I don't think it would be appropriate to even talk about it publicly. We haven't even gone into depth with Sean. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have a little bit more information we can share, but it definitely is something that's on our radar, and we are working to facilitate wherever we think we could be of benefit to both the agriculture in our area.
All right.
I attended the same meeting, so I'll leave her comments stand as far as, there's a lot for us to think about and work through. So that, and then I came to the Scappoose Bay Marina board meeting, and it was Brian was there virtually, and it was the fastest meeting I have ever been to of any related activity in the entire time I've been involved with the port. It was very efficient, very well. The information on the projects, both the construction and the signage, it was all right there, and they were all very happy with it. And so anyway, it was a great meeting. Thank you.
Chip?
Congratulations again on your 10-year anniversary. Upland project looks great. It's excited to see the hangar get demoed after 20 some odd long years there. So got that done. And I appreciate all the slides.
The only thing I've really done much on is I'm still working with some of the folks about the airport east side communications resiliency project. They've talked about coming to a meeting, but want to have all our ducks in a row and have all the answers. So that may be coming up next month, January or something. Staff will know ahead. And secondly, I want to get some time with Elliot, but I want to see, try to follow back up if when Kevin Jones gets his feet on the ground here, where we're at with the dock infrastructure, the ownership structure, the kind of the replacement plan and how the insurance company decides to categorize all that. So I haven't done that, but I need to. It's on my to-do list. That's it.
Thank you, Robert. I don't have a whole lot. I did attend the advisory committee meeting virtually for Scappoose Bay, as well as the open house for the EPA grant. Both meetings very well run by staff. Kudos on that. Just as an affirmation that we're doing what we can to communicate with the public and get input, and I'm very proud of that. So congrats, Miriam, on 10 years as well. Kellen, right?
24th this month.
Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah.
Wow, that goes fast.
Yeah,
The only other thing I have is some conversations around Connect Oregon. Obviously, lots going on with that and the grant process. So with that, we will move to executive session.
Would you like to read this?
Yes, please.
Board of Columbia County will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 1926002. Consider exempt public records. Written legal advice from general counsel. Representatives of the news media and designated staff are allowed to attend. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the discussions in this or any executive session. Board commission will return to open session after the executive session, and we do not expect any decisions to be announced. Any persons excluded from executive session are welcome to return to open session when it is resumed. Thank you.
All right, take a short break. No further business, meeting adjourned.
How many more would you like, Nancy?